Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I am a CICC licensed immigration consultant. This channel is all about news, Canadian immigration news, processes, updates, things you should do, things you definitely should not do with your Canadian immigration application. And this today being a Saturday, this is our weekly dose of whatever has happened in the field of Canadian immigration within the last week or earlier or whatever, and we basically will talk about that. We'll discuss about that as well as a few other things, and then we get on to your question and answer. So if you have some questions, please hold those back till we get to our Q&A, question and answer segment, where we will not miss your questions and be able to answer them. So starting with our presentation, get on with this one. Starting with the quote of the week: learn from yesterday, live for today, and hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning, said a very wise Albert Einstein. I so resonate with this. You can only learn from yesterday. Stop pondering about what went wrong, what went right. Just learn from it, move on, live for today, and obviously hope for the best for tomorrow, because tomorrow is always that light that keeps shining, that keeps calling, that keeps beckoning towards itself and saying, okay, I have something more promising for you. The important thing is not to stop questioning. You keep questioning everything around you, you will find answers. This is our weekly immigration roundup. So you can stay up to date with our other platforms as well on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitter. And today's topics of discussions would be, again, the Pnp Draws, the other news that we have, and of course, the question and answer session later. Starting with the Pnp Draws, we have Manitoba, where on the 7th of April, they invited 223 candidates to apply for the provincial nominations. Skilled workers in Manitoba stream was 156 invitations with a score of 739. Skilled worker overseas was 33 invitations with a score of 683. It's actually gone down by a few points there. And international education stream with only 34 invitations, but there was no requirement of any scores. Out of these draws, only 30 people were those who had an express entry profile, which basically means as and when they will get their nomination, they would receive their 600 points and then will be able to get an invite under the express entry Pnp draw. Also, British Columbia, on the 5th of April, they invited a total of 131 candidates under their general draw to apply for the provincial nomination. EEBC, which is Express Entry British Columbia, Skilled Workers Stream, and the International Graduate Streams were all included in this draw, where 131 candidates were invited. And then also on the 5th of April, they held another draw, which was for the targeted childcare category, which is NOC 4214, and then targeted healthcare categories, different NOC codes over there, and a total of about 62 people were invited under this targeted occupation draw. In other news, we have plenty of other news. Well, this was the smallest first quarter ever in the history of the draws of the express entry draws, because Canada has invited only 6,470 express candidates so far. The smallest quarter ever was when Canada invited just 4,735 candidates to apply for permanent residence, and these were this was the fourth quarter, which was last year, of course. And then so far 7 draws have been conducted in 2022, but all of these have been PNP specific draw, which I'm sure you already know. The largest PNP draw ever that was held was with 1,082 invitations. That was on the 16th of February. Why do we talk about all these when most of you are not interested in something like PNP draw? Well, actually, quite a few would be, because obviously a lot of you are receiving nominations, you are receiving invitations. But this is just to sort of highlight that it has not happened. I mean, in the history of express entry, ever since it started from 2015, well, they have never issued such few numbers of invitations. But then the situation and the circumstances are now also unprecedented. So yeah, well, this is what's happening there right now. Canada has relaxed the temporary foreign worker program rules. Now, what does that mean? That means a lot of things to do with their temporary foreign worker program, which is largely what Canada has in place for their under which they invite foreign workers to Canada. So what happens is basically Canada obviously needs foreign workers, right? I mean, it's not going to happen otherwise. At this point of time, there is a huge labor shortage across several industries. We are at the onset of summers when the seasonal occupational requirements also shoot up. A lot of recreational facilities will open up. A lot of harvesting will start again. So there's a lots and lots of requirements for labor in different industries. Also, because of the current oil and gas prices across the world, Alberta has basically sprung back up, and Alberta is a beehive of activity right now with so many job vacancies at this point of time in different segments, but mainly within the oil and gas industry. So it's really brimming up. So at the right time, what Canada has done, they have relaxed the temporary foreign worker program rules. This basically applies to categories of LMIA. So this basically surrounds the LMIA. For people who do not know what LMIA means, LMIA is labor market impact assessment. Labor market impact assessment is required so that Canada can ascertain that there is no negative impact of bringing a foreign worker from outside of Canada to Canada. So they want to make sure that there is no negative impact on the labor market. Okay, so the labor market is a fixed number, if you would want to sort of take it that way. So labor market is primarily to benefit the Canadian citizens, the permanent residents, or the Canadian residents by and large. Now, by bringing foreign workers, if it negatively impacts the labor market, which basically means the unemployment rate goes up, obviously, which is always a concern for any government, then it's always going to be a problem. And therefore, they will have these ways and processes and methodology by which they will establish that by bringing a foreign worker, there was no negative impact to the market, to the labor market, and hence a labor market impact assessment, LMIA, or a positive or a neutral LMIA is issued so that a foreign worker is recruited or hired, or a work permit can be issued to that person. So this is the background on LMIA. Now, typically, LMIA has been, or rather is still, a very difficult process to go through, because obviously there are stringent regulations and rules around it, and employers are the only ones who can apply for an LMIA. But they have relaxed the foreign worker program around the LMIA. First and most importantly, we will come to the 5 different changes that have been made, and these have been announced on the 4th of April, and they are basically effective. Most of them are effective immediately. And what are those 5 major changes, right? The first one is LMIAs will now be valid for 18 months. Now, why is that important? Earlier, LMIAs were only valid for 6 months. During pandemic, they had gone up to 9 months of validity period. Now they are for 18 months, which basically means if an employer is facing shortage of staff, they can go ahead and apply for an LMIA, and then they can, as and when they do find the required people, or if they are not able to get the required people in time, they will still be able to apply for their work permits, because the duration of LMIA validity is now 18 months. It also helps a lot of people who do receive an LMIA, but for whatever reason cannot complete the paperwork, and they will take more time to complete the paperwork. So they also now have enough time to apply for their work permit or for their permanent residence application. Now, also mind you, the expiry of the LMIA is applicable until the time you submit an application, whether the application is for a work permit or for a PR application. The high wage and the global talent stream work permits will now be valid for 3 years instead of the previous 2 years, which is also good news for a lot of people. A lot of you are from the IT tech background, accountancy fields, and people who come to Canada on work permits, whether it's intra-company transfer or whether under the global talent stream or other high wage LMIA professionals. Earlier, the work permit period, the validity period, was given as 2 years. Now it will be 3 years. It sort of gives you more peace of mind so that you can continue working without any hindrance there. And there will be no more seasonal cap to the low wage positions in the seasonal industries. Okay. Employers will also be allowed to hire 30% of their workforce through the temporary foreign worker for the low wage occupations or low wage positions. and Canada will no longer automatically refuse LMIA applications for low wage occupations in accommodation and food services. Now, this basically would apply to occupations that are mainly in food services, retail, trade sectors in region with an unemployment rate of 6% or higher. So this will not be an automatic refusal. ESDC would still process these applications under the normal streams, and if an employer is able to establish that they do need these people and they do not affect the labor market negatively, then they should get an approval with this one. As of November 2021, that is the last statistics that are available, the labor shortages in Canada in accommodation and food services sector is 130,000 plus, health sector social assistance 119,000 plus, retail trade 103,000 plus, and manufacturing at 81,000 plus. Now, obviously, these numbers are from 5 months back, 6 months back. Trust me, these numbers have changed drastically. They've actually gone up. Most of these numbers have gone up. There are the number of vacancies now are more than there have been in a very, very long time, especially in Alberta. If you're looking for jobs, if you think jobs is, and if you are from the oil and gas industry or supporting industries that support the oil and gas, then Alberta is where you quickly need to make your move towards. Now, also, effective April 30th, IRCC would impose new, rather increased immigration application fees. Well, in most cases, it's not a big difference. And for a lot of people who have these questions, if you have already submitted your application before the 30th of April, this change in the fee does not apply to you. So don't worry about it. If you will submit your PR application after the 30th of April, then obviously you will need to make the fee payment as per the new applicable fee, what is now in will be in force from the 30th of April. And it's not a big number. It's not a big increase by and large for most. And this, they had decided in the year 2020 that effective 2020, they made the big change of increasing the application fees. And then from there on, every 2 years, keeping into account the inflation, they will continue to increase the fees. Largely, the right for permanent residence fee, the RPRF fee, has gone up from $500 to $515. And in most cases, the economic programs, that is your express entry and PNP programs, the application fee has gone from $825 to $850. So $25 more on the application fee and $15 more on the RPRF fee. That is primarily the main areas where you will see the fee going up. I think for children also, I don't see it over here, accompanying dependent, yes, there is an increase of, I think, about $25 from 225. Yes, it's here, from $225 to it has gone up to 200 and, oh well, it's only $5, right? So $230. So not a big increase there either. Also, Canada announced its budget for 2022. It's always something that everybody keeps looking forward to, obviously, because a lot of money news comes through there. It affects the economy in different manners. But for us, it was more to do with immigration and how is it affecting the immigration and the immigration world. Well, a lot of money has been committed or proposed for spending in the immigration towards the immigration budget, and to maintain the immigration levels plan itself, $2.1 billion has been committed over the next 5 years to create a trusted employer model under the temporary foreign workers. Trusted employer model is whereby a large employer who does offer good benefits to their employees and are known to comply with the regulation, they would be identified as a trusted employer. And to create and manage this program, they are now going to be spending $29.3 million. Client support services, so basically they are now going to invest more money in more technology, more tools, so that they can offer better client services. I don't know how that's going to work out, because as of right now, it's non-existent. So $187 million to be spent over there. And to facilitate timely and efficient entry of TRVs. TRV stands for visitors, students, temporary foreign workers. $385 million will be spent on that aspect of things. And the stability and integrity of asylum seekers, to manage and maintain that, they have committed to $1.3 billion. So almost $5 billion has in total been committed to different immigration related aspects of things which is pretty promising. I just hope that the money is spent wisely and we do see some real life benefit there. But the biggest change that has been proposed, it was actually also proposed in the budget of 2021, and it has now made an entry again. And it talks about the federal government proposes to amend the IRPA, which is Immigration Refugee Protection Act, to provide the immigration minister with the authority to use ministerial instructions to help select candidates who best meet Canada's labor market needs. There are no further details available at this point of time by the federal government as to what changes it has in its mind. So while the statement has been made, it was proposed, as I said, it was also proposed last year in the budget of 2021. It has now been proposed yet again in this year's budget, and uh, this is always going to be something which we have been expecting and anticipating. But what does it mean? It basically means Canada will go back to making knock specific selections from the express entry pool, and that is how the ITAs will be sent out in future. Mind you, please do not panic at this point of time. Please, don't freak out with this news at this point of time, because honestly, we don't even know what it would actually mean. We do not know what kind of occupations, we do not know what will be the terms and conditions around it, we do not know what would be the arrangement around it, when this will come into play, when this will be enforced. We do not know any of that. We just know that this is going to happen, this is going to come. We also know that 2021 knock system has already been initiated. You can actually check that and on the IRCC website. And the knock 2021 has a different 5-digit coding system for the knock national occupation classification versus the current 4-digit occupation classification. They will also move away from the, right now you have knock 0 A B C D, then it will move to knock 0 1 2 3 4 5. So they have this tier system, and the only big change happens to certain occupation codes, whereby they will go into knock tier 3, whereas right now they are in knock skill type category B. And because we do not know how this knock tier 3 will be treated, will it basically be treated as ineligible for express entry, or will it be considered as part of being eligible for express entry? Because it's a big news, it will make a big change. If it is ineligible, then obviously some occupation codes will no longer be allowed to apply under express entry. But if it is made eligible, then lots of occupation codes who were earlier not eligible in express entry will also now be able to apply under express entry. So it's big news either which ways, but a news which we do not know about yet, changes which we do not know about yet at this point of time. All we know is that this is anticipated, this will happen, this will come, but when it does come, we will then obviously let you know. Until such time, we can only say that this news is not something which comes as a surprise, because obviously it was talked about in 2021 as well. But this is basically Canada going back to what it had a program earlier before express entry, where they would identify the occupations in demand and then process applications based on people whose occupations were considered to be in demand. Well, that's just about it as far as my presentation was concerned. You are most welcome to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, obviously YouTube. You're here on Twitter as well. And if you're still here, then you should subscribe to this channel. Hit on that subscribe button. We would like to see that happening. And at the same time, also smash the like button, so that more and more people can get the access to this video. Okay. Right, now that we've done with our presentation, and I've basically spoken about whatever I needed to talk about in terms of the changes that are coming, let's get on with the questions then. Okay. Muhammad Mohsin says, I applied for my in-laws visit visa in January 2020. No update on it. If I apply again, would it be new or old portal? Well, we have discussed about this old and the new portal so many times before. The choice is entirely yours. We understand that the new portal is somewhat connected directly with the artificial intelligence. And whether we like it or not, though you may have a faster response, the chances of refusal are also quite high. But If you had applied for a visit visa in Jan 2020, then you most definitely should reapply, because IRCC has very blatantly come out and said people who had applied before September 7th, 2021, they should reapply if they want to see a faster processing. So by all means, do reapply. I would have gone the old portal way because I tend to prefer that one. But by all means, if you wish to go by a new portal, you can do that as well. Okay. All right. Maxim says how IRCC will clear backlogs to get the normal processing time amid the Ukrainian crisis. Should September October PNP applications brace for processing disaster like 2019 2020 applications? Well, to be very honest, obviously, Ukrainian crisis is something which was not anticipated, but it hasn't really impacted or affected the Canadian immigration processes as much. By and large, uh, there is a big community, Ukrainian community, diaspora in Canada, but by and large, most of the Ukrainians, even if they were looking to move and obviously leave Ukraine and sort of look for relief elsewhere, they would prefer to be somewhere within the European nations itself. Not a very big number of people are making their way towards Canada. So by and large, it's not impacting the processing times at all. On the contrary, the backlogs are being cleared. We are seeing more and more and more applications being cleared. You are only September, October 2021, which basically means you are just about by the 6 to 7 months processing time deadline. So I don't think you should be worried about this at all. And no, this has got nothing to do with 2019 2020 mess, which was created because that had different situation, different circumstances. Those were unprecedented. I mean, and not even taking into account the COVID pandemic. So yeah, I don't think moving forward anybody should be worried about the processing times. If at all, they would only slowly reduce and eventually come back to the normal processing times of 6 months and under. But at this point of time, expecting 8 months to 10 months is quite realistic, to be very honest. Even after informing IRCC about my marriage, I have received passport request from New Delhi yesterday. No medicals. PCC asked for non-accompanying spouse. Is it normal? Well, to be very honest, it's quite normal. It is happening with a lot of people. Web forms were not being acknowledged. If they did update through web form, it was not getting action. It's like a big black hole. Web forms just go into that black hole and get lost forever. So from your side, please upload another web form if you can. Do send your passport for stamping. And when you're sending your passport for stamping, add a letter of explanation informing IRCC about the change of your marital status, and also add a copy of your marriage status, a marriage certificate. Let them know that you did inform IRCC, but you haven't heard back. That way, at least the person who's receiving your passport for visa stamping, they would be able to make updates and adjustments immediately. Ideally, what you can do is also request them to create separate lines in your application so that those lines, extra lines are created. The lines basically are placeholders whereby you will be directly be able to submit the documents within your application itself. That obviously has a better chance of getting connected, linked to your application rather than the web form whereby somebody has to manually link those documents to your application. But by all means, send your passport for stamping, but along with that, a letter of explanation, because you are required by law to inform IRCC if there is a change in family composition. Not only are you required to inform, you must not travel until the update has been made in your application. So please do that. Uh, File moved to Winnipeg, Vancouver. Now it's at Edmonton. No progress. Said yes to statutory question. Is it the reason for such movement? What's your observation? Well, I cannot give you my observations on something like this. Files could have been moved for workload distribution, and that's just about it. Statutory, saying yes to statutory questions does not really impact or does not initiate specific movement unless that yes had a very big background or a story to it. Can I still continue my job in India remotely from Canada even after I come to Canada on a study permit? Will it impact my Pgwp? No, you're absolutely fine as long as you're not entering the Canadian labor market illegally. You're absolutely fine. If you're working remotely from Canada for an employer in India, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. If you're on a study visa, you can do that. If you're on visit visa, there is no problem with that. Can I show car sale funds upon receiving the ITA for any PNP programs as fund? Well, you can certainly show it for some PNP programs, not all PNP programs. Some PNP programs are quite strict with the age of the funds that should have been maintained in your account. So, if at all you're looking at certain PNPs, for example, like Saskatchewan, if the age of your funds is not at least 3 months by the time you submit your application, then your application will be refused. So, yeah, do keep an eye on that and then act accordingly. My AOR is Feb 21. I am going to get married in September. Do you think this decision of mine is right? You are asking me about the decision to get married is right or not. Well, there is a saying: the people who are married, they are always questioning whether this was the right decision. People who are not married, they are always questioning whether it's the right decision. So both sides are always thinking whether the decision was anyways right. So yeah, that's the question you got to ask yourself in the mirror. That this is this the right decision? But from the immigration standpoint, you can get married whenever you want to get married. There is no problem with that. If you get married before you are a landed immigrant or you land in Canada, then you are required to inform IRCC, and then you need to update your marital status in your application. And if you get married after you become a permanent resident, you are landed immigrant in Canada, then obviously you don't need to inform IRCC, but then you will need to start a spousal sponsorship processing for your application. My husband is eligible for Canadian citizenship, and my 3 years son born in India but now in Canada from last 1 year. Can my husband, when applying for citizenship, can apply for my sons also? No, because while your son is eligible for citizenship, while your husband is eligible for citizenship, your son might not be eligible. But I will have to check about that, because for minors, there is not a specific requirement for. Again, we need to understand how old is your son. But you know what, you should check the eligibility requirement for citizenship, and depending on how it applies to minor, if that applies to you, then by all means apply. But technically, just because your son is eligible for a citizenship does not automatically make your dependents eligible by that. However, as I said, for minors, I don't remember. I haven't actually filed an application for a minor in quite some time, so it's slipping out of my head. But do check the IRCC website to see what is the applicable eligibility requirement for a minor, and then you may act accordingly. AOR 2019, I changed job and address. After that, within India, do I raise a web form separately to inform or just add details? Please just add and update your details in your IMM 5669 if you have been asked for it. There is no requirement to provide any documents, and there is no requirement to provide IRCC with that information separately. Just update your IMM 5669 and that is good enough. My wife received PPR even though I am on a maintained status. And when she received her passport, it was without any stamp, but with a sorry letter. IRCC is in complete shambolic state. Okay. I mean, as far as the last bit, as in about IRCC being in a completely shambolic state, I agree with that one. But for the first bit, I am very sorry, but I can't understand exactly what has gone wrong there. There are too many questions that I have for you, but yeah, I mean, I would need more details before I can even comment on that. I have been in the pool for 6 months. Should I wait for PNPs or go for study permit? Well, check different PNPs. Each province has a different program or a stream. Check if you're eligible there. Check their past trends. If not, and if study permit is a valid, viable option, then please go ahead with that. We just did answer that question. Meher says, re-medicals passed more than 40 days now. Can they still ask for updated PCC and POF at this stage, as they are not finalizing the application yet? New Delhi Visa Office. Well, if you had received a re-medical request from IRCC, that's all they requested, then the chances are they may not request you for a PCC or a proof of funds. But yes, IRCC can ask you for additional documents at any point of time, even after you have submitted your passport for visa stamping. I would like to ask, if I have a Canadian professional diploma and evaluated 3-year degree by IQAS, do I qualify to choose 2 or more certification, one being degree for 3 or being a degree of 3 years? Yes. If you have a Canadian diploma, which is a graduate certificate or a graduate diploma, and you also have a 3-year degree which has already been evaluated as a 3-year degree, then yes, you can choose as 2 or more degrees for your eligibility for express entry. If not, then you will simply just create separate entries for your education, one for your foreign education, one for your Canadian education, and system will automatically give you points for 2 degrees or more. I received ADR for PCC, Schedule A, and re-medical. What is Schedule A? Why asking that? Can I consider my application in safe stage now? Well, you should only consider your application in safe stage once you have landed in Canada as a permanent resident. Anything before that is always subject to questioning and admissibility. What is Schedule A? Schedule A is form number IMM 5669, which is a legal document asking for your background information. Because it has been such a long time since your application was submitted, IRCC would now like to understand if there has been any significant changes in your background, so that they can do additional checks if needed, and if there has been any changes in your address, in your employment, if they need to conduct any more admissibility checks on you. That is the reason why they're asking you for a 5669. Is there any possibility of tier-wise draws? Will tier 2 impact negatively? Will tier system be implemented? We don't know, to be very honest. Tier system has already been announced, but there is no announcement as such at this point of time as to how the changes will be made and how the changes will impact the express entry. So there is no point of speculating at this point of time. Before a tier system is implemented, IRCC will have to make significant changes, or rather, they will have to make significant changes within the law itself, which is your IRPA, Immigration Refugee Protection Act, because a lot of the sections of the law make a direct reference to the knock levels and the skill types. Also, the ministerial instructions have to be changed. So before you will see any actual implementation being made, you would definitely have a head start. You would know when those are being implemented, and you would have much better information. Would this happen in spring? No, there is no way this will happen in spring. When will OINP and Alberta conduct their draws? I do not have any expectations. You can keep checking their website. Whenever that happens, you will come to know of it. FSW in spring, which part of spring? My 470 score, 475 will expire in October. Actually, I don't think Sean Fraser or IRCC has ever mentioned FSW draws will happen in spring. They have always maintained that to be, rather, they have always maintained that majority, or rather the all program draws will be initiated towards the second half of the year or the mid of this year. Sean Fraser did indicate, stating CEC is what they are looking at, and that probably may be resumed by spring. Now, spring typically is April and May, very, very wet months, but April and also a big part of May. Actually starts from March itself, but there is no designated or defined timeline, because in March it is snowing, some days of April also it is snowing, so I'm not sure how they will define it as spring. But right now we are typically in the season of spring, so the draws can happen at any point of time. IRCC think tank, or the operations department, was supposed to give, or rather supposed to prepare a proper plan of how the draws will take place and how it will be happening in the month of March to the Deputy Immigration Minister. That has already happened, that we know. What we do not know is what was the inclusions in those draws. So obviously we have made some ATIP requests to get our hands onto the document. As and when we do get our hands onto the document, trust me, we will share it with you. Until such time, we all have our fingers crossed that the draws should start at the earliest, whether it's CEC draws or FSW draws or all program draws. And yeah, we're all hoping that they happen sooner than later. Can I courier my passport home for PPR, who is also PA, to submit a passport? I'm in UK. PPR will come soon. Do I have to go back? No, you should not courier your passport to a different country. In most countries, it's illegal to send your passport across the borders. What you should do is, when you do get your passport request, you should inform IRCC that you are in a different country, your spouse is in a different country, and that you be allowed to submit your passports in those respective countries. IRCC has no problem with that. They will indeed accept it, and you will be able to submit your passport in whichever country you are at this point of time. No knock specific draw means less chance for candidates with occupations not in demand in Canada. Unfair approach. Well, unfair for who? Unfair for you. But then it's Canada's prerogative. It's Canada's immigration program. It is their choice. They will choose and select people who they want. When we start saying unfair, right now you're saying unfair because of the occupation. Lower CRS scores says unfair because of their low CRS scores. People who do not have that specific equivalency of the education, they say it's unfair because of that. People who miss out on point 0.5 in the Ielts, they say it is unfair of that, because you will find at every segment there will be somebody who will be complaining this to be unfair. But the point is, it's unfair in whose perspective? You may think it's unfair. Canada may think, well, they will do what they need to do for their requirement. And if they need to get people for specific trade, for specific occupation, because it satisfies their market requirements, then I don't think anybody can do about it. They will do what they need to do. And just the way you're thinking it's occupations not in demand will be an unfair approach. Well, the point is, right now, a lot of people who have a lot of work experience, but because of age are losing points, they think it's the whole system is unfair, right? Because they're losing points for age, but they have much better experience to offer. They will, because of the occupations being in demand, they will probably have a better chance. And they will now suddenly call it to be a very, very fair system. So it's a matter of perspective, to be very honest. And but at the end of the day, it's Canada's prerogative. They are the ones who will choose what kind of program is best suited for their national interest. It's not the other way around, unfortunately. If we receive the re-medical request, how long will it take to receive the visa? I cannot give you a timeline. There is no specific timeline as such, but you can expect between 1 to 3 months after your medicals have been updated. When applying for student visa, should I withdraw my EE application to avoid dual intent? Well, if you've already submitted your express entry application, why would you withdraw it? And wouldn't you wait for your passport request instead of spending money on education? Then I mean, it doesn't make sense for me that just because you want to submit a student visa, you will withdraw your express entry application. I've been in the pool for 7 months now. Knock 4212. Should I? We just did this. My knock is 1222. Is there any scope for the invites? I can't tell you. I do not keep that information available with me all the time. This is something which you will need to check on individual provinces' website to see where your occupation is in demand, and then you may check and apply accordingly. When we will have to update our profiles for knock changes? Well, as I said, the announcements have not been made. It has not been implemented. It will still be a lot of time before those changes are made and that announcements have been made. As and when it does happen, of course, we will let everybody know whatever we know. And then trust me, you will have enough time to make those changes or whatever the requirements might be. Any update for Jan application for caregivers? It's too early. I mean, expect at least a 3-year processing timeline. So don't expect anything at all from those applications anytime soon. Can we raise a web form for upfront Schedule A? Well, you can do whatever you want to do in terms of raising a web form or not, but I would not recommend it because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't automatically get linked to your application. It will take so much of time. And you have to think, a lot of people are raising web forms for the heck of it. They're all so anxious. They're also impatient. They all raise web forms. But then when the time comes when you genuinely need to raise your web form, the problem is it goes into a black hole because IRCC is dealing with this humongous number of web forms that keep coming their way all the time. Most of the times, people are just sending web forms. What is my visa office? What is the status of my application? Tell me the status of my application. What is my status of my application? What is happening with my application? Those kind of web forms are just too many in number, and there are only that many number of people who are going to be handling. That is one of the reasons why web forms don't get actioned immediately or at the end, because people just send too many web forms, and you will be adding to that same queue. So just wait. You have waited for so long. Just wait it out. I mean, it's not really going to make a big difference in this big scheme of things at this point of time. Is there any? Oh, we just did this. Added spouse on December 21. There is a talk that the quota of this year in terms of landed applicants is almost over. Once it's over, our application might be pushed to next year. Is that true? Not true? Well, the talk. I do not know who is talking, but you can always check IRCC website to understand what is happening or not happening. They have a quota for 55,000 people. And yes, all these 55,000 people have been spoken for within the backlogs that they've had from the previous years. Not only 55, they actually have a backlog of 75,000 at the start of the year when we were looking at these numbers. No, they will not hold back the applications. You may just have a delayed time to sort of be processed. And by the time, most of the people who will enter Canada may happen much towards the next year. Your AOR is October 2020. You are already in line to get some decision made. It could happen at any point of time. A lot of people from 2020 are receiving their applications. So no, I don't expect it to be pushed as you are thinking over to the next year. Are we Hulk Smasher here. Well, I love Hulk Smasher. Can you do a session for post COPR pre Canada arrival applicants? Something to do with Canada prep advice. Thanks much. Okay, great one. Great suggestion. I would most certainly do that. Probably, actually, I mean, before you said that, we were looking to do something of this sort anyways. But yes, we would schedule it and we will make that announcement. Thank you. Waiting for study visa. Is it a good idea to work on Ielts, aiming for CLB 10? Would it be beneficial? Well, check your scores and see if CLB 10 actually makes a big difference in your score versus a CLB 9. If you're going to be approved for a study visa, then you will have study visa points, or rather your Canadian education points and your Canadian work experience points once you get the work experience. So you should have plenty of points already. Yeah. Can I apply for GCMS notes myself as my PR file is operated by a Canadian-based immigration lawyer? Well, yes, you can. There is no problem with that. You can use a lot of third-party agencies are there. You can use that. Uploaded ADR as you suggested, had a Zoom consultation. Okay. I have uploaded all the documents and transmitted them, but the portal still reads your action is required and we have requested additional documents. Well, first of all, you must make sure that you have actually transmitted all the documents. That's very important because sometimes you will upload them, but they're not transmitted. So you have to make sure you click on the continue button. It goes into the next screen where you do your electronic signatures and submit. That's very, very important. The placeholder should vanish. And that's most important. And apart from that, if you still have, if part of your ADR was completing your medicals, and your medicals obviously will be updated by the medical center. And once those medical center has updated, once the medical center has updated the medicals, that is when this screen will start showing that the documents have been received. But if you have submitted the documents correctly, then you don't need to worry about this. This is something which is a glitch in the system anyways. Can we use the same GC key account for approved study permit and EE profile? Yes, absolutely, you can. There is no problem with that. Okay, same questions coming through. Going to ignore them. Any chance of getting ITA for CEC at 470 draw? Well, the chances are there. Let's see how the scores are rolled out when the draws indeed do start resuming, and then we will know what's a better score. Any new knock code based invitation? So a new knock code based invitation means, would it be possible that Statistics Canada website give general idea most unemployment sectors would be invited? Well, the decision would not come only from Stats Canada. It will come a lot also from the labor organizations in Canada. So at this point of time, you trying to figure out from Stats Canada as to what will be the knock in demand may not really give you a lot of insight. Does a cut increase in salary have to be given to IRCC? No, there is no such requirement. I am a CC applicant, added my spouse while my application is processed. How long do you think will it take to get PR? Well, I can't tell you because there is no information there. And no matter how long it takes, it will take that much of time. You can't really do anything about it. You can also check the IRCC website for their latest processing times and then keep following that. I'm in manufacturing sector. Which PNP should I look for? Which province should I focus? Because all I see is tech draws. Well, that's not true. A lot of provinces have non-tech knock as well. For example, Ontario does, right? What you should do is you should check individual provinces' website, check what their programs are, check what they're offering, see what the past trends have been and look like. And then if you're eligible, then by all means do apply. Okay, similar questions. Noel says, I have signed a conditional job offer via recruitment session in Singapore by Nova Scotia government last month. They are most likely applying via AIP. Can both of us come together via work permit while AIP is in progress? Yes, of course you can. When you apply for your work permit, you can apply for your spouse as well, depending on the occupation code that you have, rather the kind of a job offer you have under which skill type. If it is 0A or B, you should be able to apply for your work permit for your spouse. I think NOC C and D also can, but I will have to check that. I'm not sure at this point of time. But yes, most definitely you will be able to apply for your spouse also for a work permit. And once that is done, depending on, I mean, I'm not sure if they're applying under AIP, but there is a good possibility that they might send you a notification of interest in Express Entry as well, so that you can apply in Express Entry. And if they are applying under Express Entry, then you will have to wait for Nova Scotia to give you a support letter to apply for work permit. If they are applying under AIP, then you will be able to apply for a work permit once you get the endorsement letter from the employer. But yes, it's absolutely possible. There is no problem with that. Well, that is just about it for most of the questions here. Seems like we finished early today. That sounds good. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Please do subscribe to the channel. That's you want to see those numbers going up. Thank you for joining me today. If you wish to discuss with me your application in detail, please by all means do sign up for an appointment so we can talk about your application in detail. And do also follow us on Instagram, because we do post a lot of good information there as well. Well, that's just about it from my side. Thank you for joining in. It was nice hosting you again. I shall see you next time, and stay safe.